What's up? This is Joe again with Military Maintainers and another Swing Shift podcast. A lot of things going on, got through a lot of stuff, and eventually I'd be a little higher with this in the back. And I'm excited about this year. I hope everybody's having a great start of the year and knocking out their goals. Hopefully you're getting your fitness in. I need to get my fitness back in. With all this moving and all this planning, I gotta work on probably waking up in the morning. So I was hoping that being around 10:30, this is swing shift, and guys would be up playing their video games. Maybe that's where they're at. So I think like 5 o'clock. I have to make that happen. It's about 4 or 5 o'clock. Get in contact with people. Let me know in comments if you think that'd be a legit place to start off with. Okay. So today's topic. This is more towards the if you are director of maintenance, recruiting, HR, if you're anywhere in the process of hiring people, and you know that a great talent pool is aircraft mechanics, right? So this one's more for those companies looking to hire military maintainers. So I'm going to be shifting a little more towards you guys because as I speak to more of you guys that are learning about the process, I already know the process to get them their AMPs. I know what they're going through, their obstacles. Learned a lot of their obstacles early on. So not all of it, but I'm pretty good at it by now. I'll leave it open to you I'll leave it open because I, there's some crazy stuff out there, man. Because I remembered this one guy. He was just trying to get home after the military. He just disappeared. Didn't even tell the employer where he was going. We had to go look for that guy. Crazy stuff. All right. So, I'm talking to employers even during COVID when things were shut down. Certain MROs, even around here, they were getting some work done, and they had a quota of like 30 technicians a week. I was like, there's no way they're gonna get that many. Not, having slave drivers, I guess. But we all talk about, the companies talk about there's a technician shortage. But when you're talking about the technician shortages, what are you doing to maintain these guys? What are you like? How do you measure that, right? So obviously you need people, but how long do they stay? Another thing is you get the guys in, and I hear too often is guys will come in for a year and then they're out the door, or they're a stepping stone. But how would you make it a home for them, not just just something transitory, not just they're constantly in transition, right? I remember when I deployed, we were going to Afghanistan, and there was a spot for them to, there was a place in Kyrgyzstan. I want to say it was Manis or something like that, where we would stop there for a few days, get our gear, and just wait to get into Afghanistan, right? So how do we keep how are you going to learn to keep good talent and keep good talent, right? What's your plan around that? Because a lot of people don't talk about um, retention, keeping good guys. Because, yeah, it's cyclical throughout the year, right? You're going to need people during X time and people during, not many people during a certain season, right? But that's where there's always that question, is there a shortage? All right. Or we need to kind of make some tweaks to the business model because retention is super important and very few people talk about it. It's keeping those good people on. The strategies to actually helping these mechanics be successful. And I think when you hire the right people, they can make you a lot of money. And I don't mean specifically money. It so much like they're probably indirectly generating revenue, right? It makes management easier. Like it made me when I first started, I was just hiring anybody that had a heartbeat in an A&P, right? Then I started hiring guys who are amazing dudes, and they crushed it. And man, I would have given that guy 10 more checks, because he was just that type of guy, right? So I try to do my best to keep him around. So why does retention matter more than hiring, right? Like in business, for example, like we got this method and it works great, and a lot of owners will go do something else. They'll jump off and do something else. But what nobody thinks about doing something that's working better, more volume, better stuff. Why not? How can I improve my course and make it better? Go specifically. How can I get people to pass the general? This is working, but how can I make it better? Right? And sometimes it's not so much about innovative things. It's just doing what we're already doing even better. And why does this matter? Why retention matters more than hiring is because there's a cost of turnover. There's a loss of productivity, retraining, overtime, mistakes. The flow just gets messed up, right? And then the time for somebody to be competent, that takes a couple of years. And yeah, and then of course impact on safety culture. When I first went to my first deployment, um, the Air Force has this rule when you're stationed overseas that you have to that that the rule is that you only get to be if you're single, you stay overseas for 2 years or 3 years if you're married. But then there was going to be a time frame when that unit that I was going to go with, or that unit that was going to go deploy, they were going to go be taking a bunch of young guys, like literally out of tech school. And all their old guys had to stay behind because they were all leaving at a certain time frame, which didn't allow them to go on this deployment because they were leaving sometime during those 6 months. And it was a lot of guys. So I wanted to go overseas. I wanted to go deploy. It was my first deployment. And I didn't want to, I wanted to stay a little longer. Not because I wanted to stay in Italy longer, because I wanted to go to Afghanistan. I wanted to experience that. That's why I joined. And we talked to the chief, and he saw like the data. Like, hey, yeah, we need some competent guys. We need experience here to even teach the new guys, because it was going to be unsafe. It's going to be it was just gonna be a headache to get these guys to ramp up. And that time frame was actually perfect for them to ramp up because they don't have distractions, no families to go to, no, drunken softball games, none of that. They had to be with us. So we used that time perfectly to ramp them up. And they were pretty skilled, right? So, replacing a skilled technician can cost 30 to 50% of their annual salary. That's the data from the SHRM workforce studies. I think that isn't that the organization. I think it's like organization for HR people. So hiring fast doesn't matter if people don't stay. So you can have all the people, but then if they don't stay, that's where I think that a lot of companies lose money because they're always constantly, replacing people. And I think the model for them needs to improve. I know Jets MRO has a good article about that, and I should have pulled it out. I apologize, guys, for that. But they have a good data on this or good ideas about retention. They touch on that pretty good, and I'll bring it up. Maybe I'll share with you guys. All right. So what does the data say on veterans, specifically in aviation maintenance? Right. We all know that it's one of the most in-demand skilled trades in the world right now. They're thinking about 400,000 new technicians needed by 2034 just to replace retirements and keep up with growth. That's a lot of technicians. So retention becomes business critical. Hiring is expensive, training is expensive, and turnover costs hit deeply in aviation because of the complexity of the work, right? So we know it's no walk in the park. This is not a McDonald's type of job. It takes time. So for context, the U.S. average worker stays about 23 to 24 months, about 2 years, before moving on. So now you compare that with the veterans retention data, and they stay 50%, 57% longer than 2.5 years. So 57% of the veterans stay longer than 2.5 years. And that's why veteran, maintainers, are an advantage in the aviation maintenance. So retention value isn't just anecdotal. It's measurable when viewed against general workforce patterns. So we know that veterans will stay longer. They have a lower voluntary turnover rates than non-veterans. Higher early tenure retention. Veterans hires are more likely to remain past 21 months and the highest attrition window. And that's through the LinkedIn Global Talent Trends. One day I'll get all this organized where I'm showing you my little graphs and stuff like that. But unfortunately, I'm doing it on a laptop and I don't have that tech right now. I have to unpack all that stuff. So retention advantage is strongest in skilled trades, maintenance, and operations, right? And then on top of that, you can do skill bridge where you get a guy for 3 to 6 months for free. It gives you feedback on this guy. So it's a great tool to use. And I see, companies not using the opportunities. And then they're right there. Veterans don't just job hop the way early career civilian techs do. So why do they stay longer, right? And the real reason is their commitment to culture. They just have that. They learn to stay with guys through thick and thin. So it's leaving early is culturally discouraged, and it's well, not. I guess it's not so true leaving early. Well, I guess leaving early, yes, but then also we're so used to their turnover because we keep moving all over the place. But we stay with the mission long term mission alignments, and we just don't quit when things get uncomfortable. We just adjust. We were forced to adjust at many times, but and sometimes we make fun of it. It's kind of funny, but we're okay with being comfortable with structure. And a lot of it is structure like the military. Clear standard operating procedures, documentation, accountability. Familiar symptoms reduce early disengagement. So when there's those like expectations, and that structure, and things, do A, do B, there's a plan in between all that, right? We're comfortable with that. And lower veterans already understand shift work, inspections, chain of command, and safety compliance. What burns out new civilians hires is normal for veterans. Like, yeah, these are the expectations. You come here at this time, you have to do this at a certain time. It has to be done at a time scheduled, and they understand why certain aircraft have to be parked for a little bit, or a lot of it, it's understanding. And veterans have shown higher loyalty when supported early. Onboarding and mentorships matter. That's why these guys are successful, because to them that's important. Because we've moved so much that we get familiar, or we get comfortable pretty fast in that place, because we've all been there where you not just onboarding or not just mentorship, or you get assigned to a person, but the whole team just comes together. We get you spun up pretty quick. We get you comfortable pretty quick. We invite you to go here and this place and that place. It's not like your neighborhood neighbors where you can be living at a place for years and do not know who that is. No, we bring you in. So what does this mean for you guys who are hiring military maintainers? That veterans can reduce your first year attrition, your rehiring costs, and overtime pressure. Retention improves the safety culture. That's a big one. Training, return on investment, and just stability. And the retention is where veterans hiring pays for itself. So once you bring these guys, they get spun up pretty quick, and you keep them, take care of them, have that culture, you're gonna have them for a long time. And then with that being said, this is how you lose them. All right, treating veterans hiring as branding and no strategy, no support in that transition, and definitely no onboarding structure. Right, there's so much data when you don't onboard people, and it doesn't go well if you don't have an onboarding process. So, but veterans do stay longer, and when you do it correctly, they stay on. So the language is going to be veteran hiring is workforce development, and that's a part where people as soon as things hit hard, programs get put to a side instead of strengthening your talent. And I think continuing to recruit, even though when times are bad, you might find that one guy that can replace bad guys, because that's how you strengthen your team, putting the good guys in. So you have data. It's not assumptions. You know, the retention is better than just recruiting. Keeping those guys is gonna help your team have the the great well-oiled machine, and in having your hangar operating easily. So if you care about workforce development and with maintainers, if you care about, you bring somebody in, you want them getting ready, get their A&P, because I can help them with all that information. So for more of this, follow, like, subscribe, share with somebody that is looking for military maintainers. I'm here to help you out. So I hope this was valuable. Just comment below veteran if you are looking to work with me and with veterans, or if you have a friend who wants to get their A&P, send them my way. I can help him out. So with that, I hope you have a great rest of your night. Have fun, be safe, and pull in chocks. Have a good one.